The big question is it too late to diversify? Well, today I have Jo Fleming with me, the CEO of Environmental Innovations. We're going to talk about how to diversify after you've been in business for a good 20 years. Jo, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tim. Good to be here.
Yeah, excited to have this conversation. We talk with a lot of entrepreneurs, and statistically, most entrepreneurs don't make it to 20 years. I mean, that's impressive. It takes a lot to get it done. So I thought we would talk a little bit about your journey and what evolution of a business at the 20-year stage looks like. So maybe you could share a little bit with our audience about just who you are and what environmental innovations is all about.
Yeah, Jo Fleming, and it's funny when you frame it that way that the businesses have been around for 20 years. I want to take a moment and take a deep breath and just enjoy that.
Right.
But Environmental Innovations, we are a woman-owned B Corp certified green business. And we have been around for 20 years. We got started, probably around 2005, 2006. And and it does feel good that we've gotten here, and we have grown from just myself as a sole proprietor to now a B Corp of 21 people in the past 20 years. And let's see, what was the other part of your question?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about
Uh-huh.
how you got started and how you made it to 20 years. And, we're talking a little bit about the diversification and what a business needs to do in order to make it sustain. You're in the sustainability business. So maybe we just talk briefly about what was the impetus, like what got you into doing your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it's interesting. It was a little bit accidental and kind of being forced into that. So, what people have realized since the pandemic in terms of work-life balance, I realized about 20 years ago when my kids were little and had trouble finding infant care and just needed to work part-time for a little bit and really loved my job, didn't want to leave my job, but the employer was kind of saying that that wasn't possible. And so I ended up having to quit just because I needed temporary part-time status. And the day I quit and sent out the email thanking all my colleagues, and I had like 3 to 5 contracts right after that. And so it was a little bit accidental, to be honest, that people
Yeah.
were offering me like, oh, we'd love to have you do this for us on a contract basis. And so it seemed like a great way to have that work-life balance. And then what I quickly found out is if you're not forced to be in front of your desk from 8 to 5, you can actually work 40, sometimes 50 hours a week and still be a good mom and have a life with your family and your friends. So that's kind of what I did, and that's how the business got started. And I, you know, I'm very passionate about sustainability, obviously, or I wouldn't have been in business for 20 years. And more importantly, I'm passionate about sustainability for small and medium-sized businesses. I feel like that size of business is kind of the sweet spot for when you can really bake sustainability into a business's culture
Mhm.
and right size it for them. A lot of the sustainability offerings are for large corporations.
Right.
And those platforms and those ways of doing business that are more sustainable, they pencil out for large corporations, but they're not right size for small and medium sized businesses. So that's where we come in is really listening to those businesses, really understanding their operations and figuring out how we can bake sustainability into their business culture.
So when you got started, '05, '06 in that ballpark, sustainability wasn't as hot as it is now.
No, definitely
It's
not. It
it's
was,
picked up a lot of momentum.
yeah.
So was there a predominant business model? I know, working in the public sector versus the private sector, like, did you know what your business model would be and how you would even get a footing in the game?
Well, I think a lot of times local government, they need businesses to work with them on sustainability. There's a lot of mandates from local governments and state and federal government as well. But it's hard for them to switch gears from being a regulator
Hmm.
to kind of a motivator. And
Right.
so more and more they're finding that hiring someone like us to actually go out to a business and assist them builds that goodwill and that relationship with a business to where they can get a lot further and do a lot more than if it's just a punitive relationship, right? And a regulatory relationship. And so we got our start by doing that, by building and designing these programs for local governments that incorporated outreach to their businesses.
So has that core business model changed over the years?
No, it's really stuck with us. And, some of the clients that we had in our early days are still our clients. They're still happy with us and we're still doing some of that work. We've built on it over the years. So whereas we might have been working with clients on their waste minimization, right? And now we've shifted to like getting more targeted where we're working with restaurants on foodware,
Right.
and then now we're also doing some energy efficiency for micro businesses and equity-based businesses. So we've gotten more targeted in our outreach to businesses, but that core government contract work has stuck with us and grown over the years.
So one of the hardest things for a business to do is to carve a niche, is to own a corner of the market. You know,
Hmm.
not the whole market. It'd be great if we could. So how did you go about getting your corner? And beyond just doing good work, right? I mean, obviously, most people would say, "Oh, we did great work." You're like, "That's cool. You could do good work," but you could also like not get a corner. So, were
Right.
you intentional about the corner you were going after, and what did it look like when you started realizing, like, I think we got something here?
I think I think I was intentional about it because I would see the reluctance of some folks to go out to businesses and talk to them and just be out there and meeting the businesses where they're at and understanding and listening to them. And I think in terms of that corner that you were speaking of, that's probably our corner is listening to a business and hearing their struggles and figuring out how some of the solutions we provide can help them and also help the environment at the same time and help their employees. So I think that's our corner. And sometimes, these businesses, I know I run a business, right? It is a struggle. Every day is a struggle to decide what your priorities are, what you're going to do. And so to tack something on like sustainability, sometimes you have to like see what's in it for you and what's in it for your employees. How is this going to help me move the needle on my business? And as soon as I see that kind of moment when a business owner or manager is like, oh, this is actually going to benefit me, that's really rewarding to see that recognition and see that and learn from it. And so I think that's probably our corner, is working with these small and medium-sized businesses for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you adapting now to just the changes in there's the regulatory environment, then you have things like AI and marketing and new business development tools, and
Yeah.
being located in California, you have the, pressures of being an employer in California. Yeah, how are you
Right.
adapting with all these things?
Right. Well, it's funny as we grow. I mentioned that we have these local government clients. We also have a nonprofit client, the California Green Business Network, where we, help local governments run their green business programs and provide funding and resources. And so those two pillars, if you will, of the work that we're doing, it's 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 definitely something that kind of helps us stay on the edge, I would say, of all the new and upcoming things in sustainability and what the opportunities are for our clients. But I definitely felt the need in recent years that, okay, so we've got these two pillars, but you're kind of balancing between one pillar or another, and the nonprofit might not have any funding, so they don't have the bandwidth to get us to move the needle on, green business certifications, or we have a local government client that loses funding, or state that loses funding. And so I kind of felt like I wanted a third pillar to add to
Mhm.
it. And especially as we had more employees, and my worst fear is having to let an employee go. I want, like, once I have an employee, I want to hang on to them. I've invested in them, they've invested in
Yeah.
us. So it's a waste of money to have to let an employee go. So we've, that's why, we got Bert's help from Growth Inc. It was a matter of, we have all these ideas of how to strengthen and maybe add a third pillar that kind of supports us as we're balancing back and forth and trying to manage all of our projects. Having a pillar would strengthen us and fill in the workload and make it so that, you mentioned working in California, there are a lot of regulatory controls, and we're a B Corp, so we even choose to add more controls and
Right.
expenses in how we look after our employees, right? And so, and I don't want to change that. I think that's important, and it's important to, if I have to stop running a business that way, it's not the way I want to be in the world. So so I don't want to change that. So it means that we have to constantly reinvent ourselves and find new ways. And so here we are, after 20 years, finding that third pillar to strengthen ourselves.
That's awesome. I mean, sometimes it could feel like every day is day one as a business owner, right? Every day.
Exactly.
I always say, like, owning a business is nothing more than problem management. You just pick
Right.
the problems you want to manage for the day.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that you're saying, like, this concept of reinvention and reinventing yourself, because we see a lot of businesses hitting that 20-year mark. Really, like the 10-year mark, there's just a lot of inertia that sets in. The way things were, the status quo, it's good enough. We know nonprofits really well. We've done well for them, so we'll just keep working on it. Whereas what I'm hearing you say is, we got to a point where you say, if we're going to get into this next 20-year phase, this third leg is going to be incremental in getting there.
Yeah.
What are the exercises that you do, maybe annually or with your team, quarterly, however you go about, just to kind of look at the status quo and then to break past the status quo?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm meeting with my executive team today. We're going out for a nice lunch, and then we're going to have a big huddle for 2 to 3 hours afterwards. And some of it is, trying to have this mindset that, yes, we know our business, we know our corner, and we're good at this, and we haven't lost these customers and these clients, and we're doing this work successfully. But at the same time, all the worry and the angst and the budgeting and the planning could be a lot better if we actually did something else. And one thing for us is, we would get customers and clients word of mouth. They would hear about us, or we'd put on some kind of forum or something about something we were passionate about because we couldn't help ourselves and we saw these opportunities for collaboration, right? And so that's how we were kind of getting our clients. And in this day and age, when there's like AI, there's all these CRMs and all this opportunity to like get yourselves out there more, and have more people learn about your services. And we haven't done that. We've never done that. So that's also part of the reason why we had Growth Inc. help us think through that and kind of think, okay, we've been allowing the work to come to us. What if we weren't so passive about that? What would that look like? And that would be kind of exciting. And so having that process with my whole executive team to get excited about that, I think was key, especially when you're starting to do the steps to get there, and you start to doubt and go, what if? I don't know. Is this going to work? We're spending money. I don't know. Especially to like go back to the process of when you start to think through all this, like, nope, this is going to work. We did some homework. We did some market research. Let's stay the course and see what happens. And let's make it fun and exciting.
Risk management.
Risk management. Exactly.
You got to keep taking those risks. And do you see sometimes as the leader where you can see the risk and you can see the future a little more than maybe your team? Do you feel sometimes like maybe your team is in that safe, secure space, but do you feel like it's your role as a leader to kind of forge new ground?
Yes, sometimes I do. Sometimes, and sometimes I don't know if it's selfish or not, but like today I'm looking forward to bringing them into all my thoughts that are worrying me, and like, I don't want to hold this anymore. You guys hold it with me.
Totally.
So, but yeah, sometimes I do see certainly my executive team as like, okay, let's hold this worry and this risk so that the rest of our team feels secure in
Right.
the work and they can execute on the work and do a good job. And we'll hold this risk and worry and take steps to mitigate that risk and worry. Um, so I don't think any leader can hold that themselves.
Hmm.
Um,
Or
I
should
think
they? Right. Yeah. They
yeah,
probably should.
I think
Yeah.
I would burn out really
Yeah.
quickly if I held all that myself. I think I need a trusted group of people to come in and hold it with me. And part of that is being comfortable with transparency. You know, you have to open up everything and be vulnerable and be transparent about your books, be transparent about everything that's happening. And if you can do that, I think you get to a point where you can be self-sustaining as a company, as an organization. And if you put everything on the leader, it's almost too much. It's almost too
Yeah.
much. And
And
that's why you
it's
see
not just
executives.
for B Corps, by the way. Those audience listeners here, you can be
Yeah.
transparent and open, and you don't just have to be this, do-gooder B Corp.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And B Corp's not for everyone. It's a really hard certification to get, and
Mhm.
it's not always right sized, and it's not always a fit for some companies, but you can still anyone can get on their B Lab assessment. Anyone can for free and go through it, and you can take what you want and leave the rest, and it's a great way to think about things that you haven't thought about and how to
Yeah.
support your company.
I think it's refreshing what you're
Yeah.
saying there is bringing in the team, first of all, having a team.
Yeah.
Having a team of people that you trust.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to one of your earlier comments of when I bring someone in, I want them to stay. I want them to be here. I want them to be invested. I don't want to let people go. You have to have a vision, but you have to let other people into that vision. And then being transparent about what's actually happening with the business so collectively you can go out and make it. If you were speaking to, let's say, an entrepreneur that's working their way up towards this 2-decade mark, like what would be a word of advice or a word of encouragement so they can continue to innovate their business and stay the course and go the distance?
Yeah, I would say to be brave.
Mhm.
Be brave, think outside of the box. Um, call on your team, call on your brain trust, because the ideas are going to come from within,
Yeah.
not from without, but people outside of you can help you execute those ideas, right? So definitely get help from people who know what they're doing from outside, but the ideas come from within. Um, and just as much as you can, well, once you've assessed all the ideas and come up with a good one
Yeah.
and done some market research to think that you can actually make it work, then make sure that niggling thought of like, I don't know if this is going to work. Should we do this? Maybe we shouldn't. Like, just tell it to shut up and just
Yeah.
keep going
Sure.
until you have data to prove otherwise. Just stay the course and see what happens. I think that would be, and look for those signs. Like, we're doing all this work to add this other pillar and this other service offering, and we had businesses coming to us in the middle of it, and I took that as a sign, like, oh, we are in the right space. Here's
Right.
these businesses that I've never attracted, these businesses for these type of service offerings, and suddenly they're coming to us, so we're in the right spot. So
Pay
look for
attention
those kind of
to the signs.
signs,
Yeah.
and and I think that would be what I would advise, and not to get too comfortable, honestly.
That's good.
I have one of those personalities that I get bored easily, so I'm always trying to look for the next thing that's going to excite me, but not to get too comfortable, to experiment and use data to drive where you focus your efforts. But that would be my advice. Yeah.
That's the soundbite right there. I mean, that's the mic drop. As we kind of round this out, you've been very gracious with your time. I want to talk a little bit about some of your vision for your industry. Right? Industries change, or you see your clients, their industries change, and you play a pivotal role in helping these folks be more efficient and be more sustainable and all this. What's your vision for where things are headed in that regard, and how do you see yourself playing a part in that?
Yeah, I mean, A big one for us lately, in probably the past 5 years or more, has been equity. So as we're designing programs, as we're designing our service offerings, is to take into account equity. Um, and um, and the reason why you do it in the beginning is because if you design a program that has incentives for businesses or helps businesses, gives them an economic advantage, and yet you're not serving a certain demographic, then you're creating inequities, which is a huge part of sustainability, is making sure whatever we do is also driving equity. So people, planet, and profit, right? And so that's something that we've been trying to do. We've been trying to hire with that in mind. Almost half of our team is bilingual in Spanish and English. We've brought someone on that speaks Chinese now. So we're really trying to make sure that whatever offering we have, we're taking that extra step and that extra effort to reach business owners and managers from different demographics, all walks of life. And California is a very diverse state. So it keeps our work lively and fun. And we're always engaging new people, which we really appreciate.
That's awesome. That is awesome. How do the good folks out there find you, get a hold of you, work with you?
Environmentalin.com is our website, and they can always email me, Jo Fleming at environmentalin.com. We would love to talk, even if it's just a chat about where you're headed and where you're going. We'd love to learn about new businesses, so please reach out.
Awesome. Joe, thank you for the time. This is a great
Yeah.
conversation. There's so many gems and bits of wisdom and nuggets out there, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. This was fun. Thank you.
You got it.